Well, I'm going to cry a bunch, I can tell you that. I was hoping I'd have my tear ducts already wore out. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Right. I'm going to start off giving you a little personal background of mine, and the curses in my family, and you guys all have your own. But when I was 23 years old, I had to go. Actually, just gave my life to the Lord. Not much before this, or not much, after this. Anyways, or before that. Anyways, so I had to go get lab work done for my job, health insurance, and I went and anyways, my cholesterol was like 230, and I was 23, and it should be about 200. My good cholesterol is really good, because I'm a wrestler or whatever, but my bad cholesterol was really high. And anyways, the doctor told me, he said, your dad had triple bypass when he was 36, and your body just produces bad cholesterol. And he said, at this rate, you're going to have a heart attack or heart disease or whatever. And he said, you need to take this medicine. And I had just met the Lord not too long before that. But I didn't know much about the Lord, but I know that He came into my heart. I know that, without a shadow of a doubt. Mm-hmm. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Looking back, man, when I was just a babe in Christ, I think sometimes I had a little bit more faith then than what I do now. And I've seen Him move mountains. I've seen Him heal people. But man, but I still walk in this body. So anyways, so my dad, so that stuck with me, and so, but my thought process was that I will do what I can do, and then God has to do what I can't do.
Yeah. That's right.
That's the way I see it. And I don't care. I'm not telling you guys not to take medicine. I'm not saying any of that. It's your walk with the Lord. It's your relationship with the Lord. Mine and His. I'm just giving you a personal story of me walking with Him and doing life together. So anyway, and I eat healthy and this and that, and so I'm doing my thing. And then and that's always been in the back of my mind. My dad took heart medicine and all that for years. And that had always been on my mind. And then a couple years ago, was it a year or two ago, I had an episode in my heart, and sitting at the house, and God had already told me previously to this happening. He said that I am alive inside of you, and if there is anything ever going on inside of you, I will let you know. And He said, and if it's of no concern, then just leave it alone. So anyways, I had an episode at the house, and actually He just reminded me when I was sitting up here that the day that happened, Brian, was the exact same day I gave my life to the Lord. Years before that. 20 years ago, 23 years ago. So anyways, I had an episode at the house, and I don't reason away. I live in this body. I know what these feelings are in my body. And man, through my chest, up through my jaw, down my arm, and I'm sitting there in the chair, and she said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "I'm all right." And I went in the bedroom, and I prayed, and I said, "God," I said, I know what just happened inside my body, but you told me. See, God's a God that will give you a word, and no matter what happens, you can go back to that word. And I go back to that word, and I said, "God, you told me that you're inside of me. Is there something I should be concerned about? Because if there is, I'll go get checked out." And He was silent. So I went back in, and I sat down in the chair, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? It wasn't a fear thing, because I know where I'm going, but it bothered me. It bothered me. I'm like, I run this hard up every day, and I do my thing. And anyway, so I told Breen, I said, and maybe it was for her peace of mind too, because she was worried about me. So let's go to the hospital. So we went to Marietta. And they did an EKG on me, and they did an EKG immediately, and then they did lab work. There, my EKG was fine. There was no troponin in my blood, signaling that I had a heart attack. And anyways, I was in there for a while, got to minister to a bunch of people, got to love on a bunch of people, and I don't ever want to miss the opportunity to meet people. And if that's what God sent me there to talk to people, it's okay, because a lot of my faith comes from doing what he told me to do. Right. And if I do what he told me to do, he has to keep me safe. He has to keep this thing. He took my heart of stone away and gave me a heart of flesh, a heart of love. There's royal blood flowing through my veins right now. I'm a royal priesthood. I'm set apart for the kingdom. And that's what I go back to every time, and I hold him at that. So anyways, we were up there and did our thing, so anyways, we left there, and they called and checked up on me, and I was fine, and just kind of backed off on coffee, whatever, a little bit. So anyways, meanwhile, I meet a guy at the gym 2 years before this ever even happened. I'm at the gym working out, and a friend of mine that is there, he comes over and gets me, and this is 5:30 in the morning, says, hey, we need to go pray for this guy. And I'm like, okay. So I get off the bike and I go over, and there's a guy standing there, bald-headed guy, probably in his mid-50s, and he's got nurse's scrubs on and a sweatshirt. My buddy said, let's pray for him. So I'm like, okay. So I walked over, and as soon as I got in this circle where he was standing, the Spirit of God just overwhelmed me and overwhelmed my buddy, and we just prayed for this guy. And anyways, I know the Spirit of God. The same Spirit that's in here right now is the same Spirit that was at the gym that morning. And I just kind of walked away from that, and I'm like, man, it hammered me. So anyways, I just went and did my workout, and I went to work, and later that evening, my buddy called me, and he said, let me give you a backstory of this guy. He said, that guy there, and this buddy of mine, he was here Friday night with me. And anyways, his wife had been sick on and off for years, and she ends up going to Marietta Memorial. Well, that guy that I met at the gym was a traveling cath lab nurse, and he was actually working at Marietta Memorial and got to meet this guy and spend a lot of time with him. So this is the same guy that was at the gym. His wife had just died, like a week or two before that, of cancer, and he leaves his house and he goes traveling because he don't want to be at home. So anyways, he's at the gym that morning. My buddy tells me, he goes, the guy's name's Forrest, his wife just died, and he's really struggling. And he's a Christian, he's just struggling. So anyways, God, he is so amazing how he brings this stuff full circle. So anyways, after I had my heart episode, Forrest was back up here traveling, and he was at the gym. And I said, hey man, are you working at Marietta? He said, yeah. I said, do you know any good cardiologists up there? He said, matter of fact, there's a real good one. And keep in mind, this traveling cath lab nurse, he has 13 stents in his heart. The reason he is still alive is because God still has a purpose and plan for him. There is not an enemy that can take any one of us out. If God still has a plan for us, we're still here. And anyway, so this Forrest has 13 stents in his heart. So I reached out to him like, hey man, any good cardiology? He says, yeah, there's a guy up here, Dr. Musa, was at Marietta. I said, do you think you could get me in front of him? And I was like, man, I'd really like to talk to him. He said, I'll talk to him and see. So anyways, meanwhile, I work on EKGs and all this jazz. I run an EKG on myself at the shop with a brand new EKG machine. Khakis laying on the floor. I got everything hooked up because I want to go in there with some facts. So anyways, I go up, he gets me an appointment. I go up and see Dr. Musa. And anyways, before that, I go see my primary care doctor, Dr. Hebner. He's like, it's about time you go see a cardiologist, whatever. So anyways, I go see this Dr. Musa, and he goes, tell me your history. Told him my history. Told him my dad's history. Gave him the EKG. He looks at the EKGs, the two previous ones from the hospital. He looks at them, and he looks at all my lab work. He looks at the EKG I gave him. I said, what do you want to do? And he said, I'm not going to do nothing for you. I'm like, dude, I'll pay for a cath. I'll pay for heart catches. I'm a mechanic. When I work on a car, I'll fix everything. I'm like, dude, just do a cath on me. Go in there and see if anything's going on. Just fix me, And he goes, I'm not touching you. He goes, I flat refuse to touch you. He said, you run your heart rate up every day. You eat healthy. You do this and that. And he said, if something goes on in your body will let you know. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So I leave the doctor's office. I walk out of the door, and God says, you came to him for an opinion. I'm the one that's got the answers. So I'm like, fair enough, God. I was like, okay. I got you. But man, I'm telling you guys do what you want, but I try to figure the guy out. He made me, but I'm always chasing him. Like, where are you going with this? So anyways, I did that. Another year or so goes by, and anyways, we were at Disney. Come back from Disney on Sunday. I have a best friend that's 61 years old. I've known him for 30 years. And it's kind of a David and Jonathan friendship. Love this guy. Jared knows him. I love this guy. Love him. Spent a lot of time with him. He talked to me 2 or 3 times. Asked if God took me to heaven. When I was gone at Disney, I said, no, you're on the phone with me. I said, no, I'm still here. So anyways, Monday morning comes around. It's 9:30. I'm at the office. I'm usually traveling, but being gone, I come back, had to do some admin work. So I was at the office, and Jimmy calls me at 9:30. And I was like, hey, man, how you doing? And he's a lot of energy like me. He's in his 60s. We're like-minded. We build, we mechanic, all this stuff, hunt. So anyways, he calls me Monday morning at 9:30, and he says, I said, what's going on, man? He said, I had a rough weekend. And it's like me telling you I had a rough weekend. If I come in here like this, you guys would wonder something's wrong with me. So anyways, he said, I had a rough weekend. I said, what happened? So anyways, he tells me Saturday or Friday night in the middle of the night, early Saturday morning, he wakes up in the middle of the night. He's sleeping. He wakes up in the middle of the night, chest, like somebody put a strap around his chest. Pain going up his arm, down his other arm, in his jaw. He is literally sweating, just drenched. And he said, I kind of sat there on my bed, and I was wondering if I was dying. And he said, I kind of sat up, and I went downstairs, and he said, the fever finally broke. And he said, I went back to bed, and he said, it happened 2 more times. And he's a contractor. He don't have insurance. He's an independent contractor, don't have a lot of money. He's by himself, no wife. His family is up in Massachusetts. Nobody knows about Jimmy, really, but me. I'm his family. I'm his buddy. So anyways, he tells me this, and I'm like, man, I said, you need to get checked out. He goes, I don't know where to go. So anyway, Saturday morning when he got up, he got online and started getting insurance, health insurance. He goes, I know I'm going to have to get checked out at some point. So anyways, I told him, see, you're about to get checked out. Everything he was telling me is the exact same thing that happened in my body in the chair. I will not reason it away what happened in that chair. But I know that I'm washed in the blood and I'm as white as snow. And there ain't a devil in hell that can take this old boy out. Because I'm an anointed man of God. God's Spirit is upon me. And I knew exactly what happened in him is exactly what happened in me. And I told him, I said, let me make some phone calls, Jimmy. And he said, I'm going to go to work at my house down on 13th Street in Parkersburg. I'll already be down there. I'm just going to sweep a little bit and whatnot. And he said, see what you can do. So anyways, I sent my buddy Forrest a message. He was just in North Dakota a month ago. About a month and a half ago, he's in North Dakota. A month ago, my buddy that come with me Friday night, Jeff, his wife died of cancer. The same guy that Forrest was with when Forrest's wife died. So Forrest comes from North Dakota back to work at Marietta, and he's got to spend some time with Jeff. So now neither one of them have a wife. So anyways, they got to spend time together. So anyways, I texted Forrest. He's up at Marietta. I said, do you have is there any good cardiologists up there? Because that Dr. Musa left that I met. And he said, and an hour and a half goes by. And an hour and a half goes by. Jimmy is down working at his house now on 13th Street. So Forrest, he texted me back. He said, what's going on? I told him I just needed something. He said, what's going on, buddy? And I said, man, I got a buddy of mine to explain, my best friend and this and that. He goes, let me talk to the cardiologist up here. There's a new cardiologist called Dr. Schott. And anyways, he said, let me talk to him real quick and see what I can do. So anyways, he talks to the cardiologist. Cardiologist says, and I told him, I said, he just got insurance. He don't have a primary care doctor, nothing. And the Dr. Schott said, have him come to my office shortly and I'll see him. This is, what I'm telling you is an eyewitness account of God. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. It's what he said. He said, greater signs and wonders and miracles will follow those who believe. So anyways, the cardiologist said, have him come up here. I will see him. And anyways, I called Jimmy. He said, man, I'm just cleaning up. I can't hardly breathe. I'm really struggling. And I said, man, I said, there's a way for you. I said, go up to Marietta. And I said, and he was on his way. There was no picking him up. He's like, I'm fine. So anyways, he drives up there and he goes in the doctor's office. And anyways, I'm still at work and I'm literally texting back and forth. And anyways, so he goes in the cardiologist's office and they do an EKG on him and he's having a heart attack at that moment. And anyways, the cardiologist and a nurse put him on a stretcher and take him down to the ER. Meanwhile, I'm in my van, my work van, and I'm really wanting to go hunting. I don't know how serious this is, but God says, are you kidding me? He said, get in the van. You got another job to do up there. You have reason to be in Marietta, and go up there to Suite 302 and see him. So I work at Marietta all the time. So anyways, I go up there and I go to Suite 302 and I notice there's not a Dr. Schott's name even on the door. He's that new of a cardiologist. He's not even on the door yet. I go in there and I tell the receptionist, I said, hey, I'm looking for a James Mahoney. He's my buddy. And the guy said, yeah, he'll be coming out in a minute or two. I said, okay, I'll just sit here in the chairs. A couple minutes goes by. And that same receptionist, the guy, he gets up and he comes to the door and he said, hey, they took your buddy downstairs. And in my mind, I know something's going on. So I walk out of Suite 302 and immediately they page overhead stroke alert in the ER. And I said, God, I'm praying for that person that's having the stroke, but that's not Jimmy. I flat refuse to accept that. That's not my best friend. Because there's a circle of favor around me, just like Joseph. Joseph's buddies and his family was spared because of the circle of favor on Joseph himself. So anyways, I'm walking down there, I'm like, nah, I'm not accepting. That's not him. I go down there and I see one of the nurses I know down there. I said, hey, look up James Mahoney, where's he at? And she said, he's in ER number 7. So anyways, I'm walking towards ER number 7, and I hear him say, which one of you girls are going to shave my belly? Oh my gosh, Jared, is that him? And I walk in there, and I go to the foot of the bed, and he's in the stretcher. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, did shave your belly? And I heard one of the nurses say, put nitroglycerin under his tongue. They've done the lab work real quick. They did another EKG because this doctor knows that they have to prove he's having a heart attack for a cath. They're not just going to do a heart cath. That's why the doctor wouldn't touch me. So anyways, they're building the case for this. So the girl's like, hey, I want to do an chest x-ray and make sure he didn't have an aneurysm or anything in his chest. So anyways, I stepped out of the room. And when I stepped out of the room, Dr. Schott, never met the guy before in my life. He comes walking down through there. And I said, hey, are you Dr. Schott? And anyways, he said, yeah. And the Spirit of God just come on me. And I said, that man in there is my best friend. I said, he has no family down here. I was like, it's me. His family don't even know he's in here right now. It's just me. And he said, I'm going to take good care of your buddy. And he's seen the Spirit of God inside of me. And he went in there and he told Jimmy, he said, listen, he said, we're going to take you back to the cath lab right now. And he said, and we're going to do a heart cath on you and see where the blockage is. So they take him in the cath lab, and I lose sight of him because he's in there. So I text my buddy Forrest. He's working that day. And I text him. I said, hey, they're taking Jimmy in the cath lab. He said, yeah, they're bringing him up now. And I said, can you keep me informed on what they're doing on him because I don't know. And anyways, he said, we'll take good care of him. So my buddy Forrest is in the room doing a case beside him, and Dr. Schott gets Jimmy in there, and he's working on him. And anyways, so when he's working on him, my buddy Forrest keeps coming over and checking the screen. And he texts me, he goes, dude, it's bad. He goes, his blockage is really, really bad. 95%, the widowmaker artery on the left side of the heart where it branches off, it is clogged right there. And literally it's like a water hose plugged off and it's just dripping on the other side. His heart is laboring, trying to push pressure through this. And keep in mind too, Jimmy's laughing and giggling. He don't understand the severity of it. So anyways, they go in there and Forrest says, man, we're going to get him taken care of. They get a stent. It was like an 1 3/4 stent they put in that main artery and it literally release it. Everything comes out of him and he's laying there and the doctor shot's showing him what he did to him because Jimmy's a builder. He's like, what did you just do to me? He's ignorant on healthcare. He don't understand. He just believes I work hard and I'm going to be okay. So anyways, so him and Dr. Schott, had a really good conversation. Forrest said, hey, they got him wrapped up, all is well. And I'm like, man, that is awesome. So anyways, so I go home and Brian and I were like, hey, we had to go to the store that night. I'm like, let's go to Marietta. Jimmy will be back in observation. We'll go see him. So anyways, we went up there and seen him and he was doing great. And anyways, the next day, he's coming home. And of course, they're like, you've got to have somebody pick you up. And he's like, okay, take him out in a wheelchair. He gets out of the wheelchair and goes to his truck. It's Jimmy, man. He's my buddy. It's the way he is. So anyways, he called me, and I've been talking to him a couple times. I said, you doing good? He said, yeah. He said, I'm on my way home. He said, I want to stop by your house. So anyways, he stopped by the house and got out of the truck, come in the garage, and he said, he said, I was down there, and this is the guy that was raised Catholic, believed like unpardonable sin, like he's done too much. That morning, Monday morning, when I talked to him, I said, I'm going to pray for you. He said, don't bother God with my problems. He's got the whole world to take care of. How you perceive God is how you will receive from God. Right. If you don't think He's a good dad that loves you, you won't expect anything from Him. So anyways, he walked in the garage and he said, you saved my life. I said, I didn't save your life. I said, that guy up there did. I said, I played a part in it, so did Forrest, and so did Dr. Schott. There's a circle of obedience involved in your life right now. God told me, He said, if you want a best friend, you got to be a best friend. Right. He told me that I made Adam out of the dust of the ground. He said, I spoke everything into creation. He said, but no, not Adam. He said, I personally formed him. He personally formed each one of you in here because He considers you a friend and wants to be your friend. Right. And that's the only thing I've done with Jimmy is I just loved on him for 30 years, and I love that man. But he told me, he said, he said, when I'm laying in that stretcher, he said, I was joking around because I was scared, Tim. He said, everything that I build, I'm in control. He said, concrete, I can bust it up and fix it. He said, what was going on inside of me, I couldn't control it. He said, it was out of my hands. And he said, when I was laying on that stretcher, he said, I looked around, and he said, I see 2 cardiologists, an ER doctor, 3 nurses. And he said, and you were standing down at the foot of the bed. And he said, God, I don't want to die by myself. And he said, but if I do, I'm glad Timmy's here with me. Mark 2. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that He had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door, and He preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing Him a paralyzed man carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, He said to the paralyzed man, son, your sins are forgiven. The faith of those 4 boys is what Christ Himself seen. And He healed that man because of their buddy's faith. It's not me, but I believe there's a little bit of faith in me that God sees that He spared my buddy. Not only did He spare my buddy, He don't owe me nothing. He don't owe us nothing. He personally got involved in Jimmy's life. He personally showed Himself to him. He showed him. No person can go not to a family doctor. You have to get a referral. You got to see a cardiologist. You go to the ER if you're having chest pains. 9 times out of 10, you die in the ER waiting on a room. I see this every day. This was an eyewitness account of a God that will literally reach down in the mud and get personal with us. He bypasses the 40 years of smoking, the drinking, all of it, and says, I love you. That's the God that we serve. And that's the God that showed up Monday. And when I left there, God told me, He said, take all the text messages, email them to yourself, print them off, and give Jimmy the December 12th, 2022 testimony of his life in the background that he didn't even know about. Between me and Forrest and the doctor, it was all going back. His life was in the hands of a few people. God says that we are overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. The only thing I want to do is testify to Christ and His goodness and how good He is. Amen. Guys, I am rough. I told God the other day, why you would ever have me speak? I'm rough. He said I'm a carpenter. I take rough things and make them smooth. Yeah. That's what I do. All I can do, I'm not the most elegant, whatever, but all I can do is testify to the goodness of God. Just an eyewitness fact that Christ is real. That's all I have to give. Hundreds and hundreds of stories. My faith a lot of times goes back to the fact that I'm just doing what you told me to do. You said that if I don't praise you, the rocks will cry out. If I don't testify, the trees will testify. Even the tree that He hung on would testify to His goodness. Yeah. If I don't do it. It's His will that the church testify of who He is and what He has done. Good things He has done. Even when He was on the cross, Jimmy was on His mind.
Right. Amen. Yeah.
He's just good, guys. He loves us. But it is a personal thing. It is a personal walk with Him. And He's my buddy, man. What would I do? And He would do the exact same thing for me. He's the guy that wants to help me 1,000 times, so the one time He needs help, I can't say no. That's Him. That's what He tells me. But anyways, guys, this is a personal thing. And I'm telling you, God told me, He said, what price would you pay to see one of your friends get healed? What price would you pay to see one of your buddies get saved? The price that it would cost you, it's going to cost you everything. It's going to cost you your life. This gospel is for us to lay down our life and to follow after Him. Yeah, we still have fun and we still get to do the things that we do, but this thing essentially costs our life. God lets me do the things that I do and enjoy the things that I do, but there's times where He says, you're not going hunting, kid. You're going to Marietta because your buddy needs you. There's one thing. I mess up and I fall down, but I go back to the fact that Jesus said, Peter, do you love me? Peter said, yeah, I love you. He said, feed my sheep. That's what I go back to. I'm like, God, I'm feeding your sheep. You've got to keep my heart going. You've got to keep that plaque enamel. When I was a kid, that doctor, 23, told me statistics, Tim. He said statistics are that you'll have heart disease. You'll have high cholesterol from 230 to 290 for 25 years. You're a walking heart attack. That statistic, those pool of people that you pulled in for this statistic, was any of them like me? Because God done told me in a whole field of soybeans, I was the one corn that was standing up. I made you different. You're not the same as everybody. You are different. I said, is those statistics, were those people washed in the blood white as snow, as clean as snow? Were they? I don't go by your statistics. I go by what the Word says. God says, Tim, you don't live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of my mouth. And if His mouth said that I am healed, by my stripes you are healed. He earned my healing. Every whip He was looking, going, Tim, you need this. You need this. You need this. He did that for me. What you guys do with it, it's up to you. But what I do with it, it's between me and Him. And if He said faith moves Him, He said it's unable to please Him without faith. Right. You guys' faith, I don't measure it. It's not my business. As for me, I'm a man of faith. I have to be. I've went so long with Him. What am I going to turn back? It's been 25 years without cholesterol medicine. I can't take it now and undo 25 years. It's up to Him to keep my pump factory here going. It's up to Him to keep my blood filtered, Dave. I can't do it. It's up to Him. I'm like, God, I'm doing what you called me to do, so you have to keep me going. He said the harvest is plentiful and the workers are few. I'm like, God, you know my heart. I'm a worker, man. Just use me. If you want me at the north gate, south gate, west, or east, I'll be at whatever gate you want me at, Lord. So that's where my faith comes from, guys. He's just a good God, you know. And I told Jimmy, I said I'm going to speak on Sunday. I really feel like I got the unction to do so, and it's going to be a man named Jimmy. He called me this morning. He called me early this morning, so I've been calling him every day, asking how he's doing, and he said, and he's Boston, Massachusetts, Kenny, he said, he said, the last couple of days, I kind of thought I would have died and went to heaven, then you would have had to tell the story to the 380 people that's called me. He goes, they're worse on my heart than the freaking blockage. He said, you ever call an IT guy and you tell them a story? And they're like, I'm not your guy. I'll transfer you to Phil. Put you on Phil, and it's like, hey, Phil, here's my story. And he goes, nope, I'll send you to Trevor. He goes, that's what I've done for 3 days now. So anyways, guys, like I said, everybody believes how they want to believe, man. I'm different. I'm awkward. But I got to take him at his word.
Amen.
You know, God's just good, man. And like Jimmy, I've talked to him 100 times, you know, and he's at home right now because he has to be, and they told him to take it easy for a week, and then just gradually do his thing. And so, man, he's really been sitting at the house thinking a lot, and he's been thanking God a lot. He's been thanking him a whole lot. You know, God will do things that no other person on this earth can orchestrate. Because God don't owe us nothing, but he gets personally involved, and God really gets a smile on his face showing off what he can do. A lot of times in the Bible, and God don't need to show off or brag, but boy, he really likes to let himself known. And like I said, guys, each one of us in here, I just want to hear clearly. I want you guys to hear clearly, because life and death, these are life and death situations. People die all the time. And I'm like, God, just use me however capacity you see fit, whether it's up here speaking, encouraging, whatever you want me to do, I don't care. I get up on the roof and clean the roof. I'll do it, whatever. I just want to be used by the King, because I know who I once was, and that's not who I am now, and that's not who I will ever be again. And God saved me from things that you guys will never know. I got a war in my head just like you guys every day, and God has given me power to keep that under control. I keep the enemy in my head at bay, and I just walk into newness of life every day. You know, I just praise God. But you got a song? I can see you fidgeting around.
Tim,
You got?
I found a song literally yesterday that goes word for word with what you meant. Like, I didn't know when this song was supposed to be played, but I fully believe that it's for right now, okay? And